It's 9:30. Call the meeting to order here. I'd like to start off with a recognition today. Today is National Indigenous Peoples Day. Woodlands County joins to recognize and celebrate the history, heritage, resilience, and diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis across Canada. For generations, many Indigenous groups and communities have celebrated their culture and heritage on June 21st, or around this time of year, because of the significance of the summer solstice as the longest day of the year. Woodlands County wishes to acknowledge the traditional treaties of the Indigenous people of the Treaty 6 region and the Treaty 8 region in the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth. This council has made a commitment to learn how to steward this land and work and live in relations to advance the truth and reconciliation. So today is obviously the 21st National the Indigenous Peoples Day today. So there are other events going on today. Town of Whitecourt hosting downtown. So we'll see where we get with the meeting. I'll continue here. Start with the agenda. Anything extra from administration?
No, Your Worship.
Council, anything extra from council? No, with that, can I get a motion? Councillor Wilhelm?
A motion that council adopts the agenda as presented.
Motion on the floor, any discussion? No, with that, I call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Move down to the adoption of the minutes. We got a couple here. I'll start with the minutes of June 7th. Anybody see any errors or omissions we need? Councillor Kuchen?
Make a motion that we adopt the council meeting minutes of June 7th, 2023.
Okay, any discussion? I call a question. All in favor? It's carried. Move down to the meeting minutes of June 12th, special meeting. Councillor Williams.
I'll make a motion we adopt the special council meeting minutes from June 12th.
And any discussion? That, call a question. All in favor? Carried. And special council meeting June 14th. Councillor Wilhelm.
A motion we adopt special council meeting June 14, 2023 minutes as presented.
Again, any discussion? All that, call the question. All in favor? And it is carried. Go through the list here. Do the delegation at 10 o'clock.
Worship, I just have to excuse myself because of the flight.
Okay. I'll continue down to 7.1. Heather, can you take us to that one?
I am. Good morning, Region Council. So before you this morning is a request to rescind policy 5102. This is the seniors, citizens, and disabled persons transportation benefits. As we have amalgamated that policy into your new benefits program, this one needs to be rescinded so that we can't have two policies running congruently. That is the request this morning.
Council, any discussion? Councillor Prestidge?
I'll make a motion that council rescind policy 5102, senior citizens and disabled persons transportation benefits.
Motion on the floor. Discussion from anybody? See anything around the table? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Move down, go on here, business horizon. New business, 8.1, Fort surplus. Andre, you're gonna take us to that one?
I am, Your Worship.
Thank you.
My worship members, council, council previously approved a number of items to be deemed as surplus in Fort Assiniboine yard. The items were advertised in the Barhead Leader, social media, and we did receive bids on all items. Policy 1206 identifies that highest or any tender must be approved by council prior to the item being released. Our combined revenue is $2,627.99, and recommendation is that council approves the sale of items deemed surplus for the bid prices received.
Any discussion from council? Councillor Wilhelm?
A motion that council approves surplus for the bid prices received.
Motion on the floor, council, any discussion? Discussion, I guess call the question, all in favor? It's carried. 8.2, product evaluations. John?
Members of council, over the last number of years, infrastructure has been testing a couple of products. The first is GeoWeb, which is a nylon material. If you look at it head-on, looks like a net. However, it's 10 to 15 centimeters thick. It gets spread out, filled with gravel or sand, and it is used to bridge over very soft areas. The product works, the cells work independently, but are supported by the surrounding cells. We used it in 3 locations. The results were excellent. Actually very surprising. And we will be using that material in the future where the conditions weren't that tight. The other one was Gravelock. It's a liquid mixed with water. It is applied to gravel where it's not as soft as where we would use the GeoWeb, but it's more of a surface issue. It's mixed in the gravel, spread out, rolled, and it can be reworked. It all the product together. We use it in 3 locations. 2 it worked well, 1 not so well. The product needs clay to really show its strength. The one area where it did not work, there wasn't much clay in it. It also, one of the byproducts of it, I guess, is it also acts as a dust suppressant. So it's a twofold thing. On 120, it actually worked fairly well. We did use it on one road where it did not work so good. That was on Cartwright Hill. But again, it's a product that we will be using in a few locations this year. On some of the hills on 121, Range Road 121, and a couple of other spots we're going to apply that. So the recommendation is that council accepts the RFD on test product evaluations as information.
I'll start, Councilor Dean. Councilor Burrows.
Through the chair to Andre, it says the web cells are then filled with a granular material. What's the makeup of that granular material?
The makeup is anything that's porous, so sand, rock, gravel,
Okay.
anything like that. You don't want to use clay or soil.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Burrows.
So through the chair, we've talked about this product before, especially that GeoWeb and some of the test areas that we've been looking at. And the plan through asset management is the idea is that you lay this material out and it's supposed to perform over a period of time, and we get some feedback on it, and then we figure out whether or not it's worth it. At the time, we talked about putting some signage up so that there was signage for where specifically that product was laid out. I've had conversations repeatedly with administration about the signs. The signs went up, then they came down, went up, now they're down again. So I would think that a product that costs this much, one of the best feedbacks that we get is from residents. You're driving over all the time, and they come and say, you know, that area where you laid that, whatever it is, in between those 2 signs, it's working really well. And also, over a period of time, they're going to forget where it is. We might have it in our GIS, but we need that feedback. And if a product's supposed to last 3 years, well, then the sign should stay up for 3 years. If the product's supposed to last 30 years, then they should stay up for 30 years. For that test section. I mean, we've all driven by them and seen them on the highway, but the signs are down again, and like, are we gonna have to make a policy on this, I guess is what I'm asking.
Question to administration, as far as for these test areas, and I do agree, we have in the past conversations, I know we did put up signs for residents to be able to, I guess, judge those areas versus other areas. Is that something we need to put into a policy if we want to have the signs up for the time we're trialing the lifespan of that product?
Through the chair of council, as far as our members never did on the length of time the signs would be up. I know the gravel lock signs, I believe, are still up. The G-Web signs, that was, I'll say, an oversight when the construction happened. They were removed. It was not thought of about putting them back up. So, but if council's wish is that signs stay up for the life of the product, you know, that's doable. There was just never a discussion on how long we would leave them up.
Councillor Cogan?
Yeah, through the chair to Andre. Does it serve a purpose as well? I kind of agree that the sign should be up because you have two products here. You know, for us to understand better the life cycle of the GeoWeb and the life cycle of the gravel lock based on the cost. Does it serve a purpose to have those signs up? And then also an understanding from our residents that they know the difference and are able to provide feedback as to, you know, how it's performing and what value that is to our municipality.
Through the chair to Councillor Colgan, recollection, I don't believe we've gotten one call on the gravel lock test section. And on the GeoWeb, I believe we had 4 calls. Most of them were while we were applying the product, asking what it was, what we were doing. Since they've been there, since it's been there, I don't recall getting any calls on it from the public.
Just a follow-up question as well then is, so what is the monitoring process that, infrastructure does to analyze the value of the two products and how they're applied?
Through the chair to Councillor Colgan. So for the GeoWeb, it's pretty straightforward. We know the condition of the road before, how severely it rutted. Once the GeoWeb was applied, we haven't seen any running at all. So that's pretty easy to quantify and to make the determination that the products work. The gravel lock, what we're monitoring on that one is the product keeping the surface material together? Are we able to rehabilitate it? So essentially just go with the graders, grade the road and lay it back down, and does it regain its strength and keep the dust down? So that's how we're monitoring it. The GeoWeb should last 20 to 25 years. The gravel lock, relatively new. I believe there are some sites in Alberta that have had this for roughly 5 years, but with talking to the suppliers, they estimate 8 to 10 year lifespan.
Councillor Wilhelm, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to, with regards to 120, that one, I will, through the chair of administration, we'll give administration props. 120, the condition of 120 has gotten a lot better in the last couple of years. I do find still that section though, where you're leaving Mountain Road East or entering Mountain Road East, still ruts up pretty bad, and I think it's because it's a hilled section where people have to accelerate into the hill or decelerating out of hill. Would putting gravel lock into that section solve that problem? Because I think that that's probably one that the residents complain about, and is one you have to put that probably 200-300 meters. Would put a gravel lock there, sorry, not gravel lock, I apologize, that geo there solve that issue, do you think, or is that something you guys are looking at all?
Through the chair to Councilor Wilhelm, geolock won't solve that problem.
Okay.
We did put GeoWeb won't work there. Gravel lock there, it did improve it, but because the acceleration right off the asphalt and the deceleration, people slowing down, it's not rutting, but it is getting washboardy. As far as resolving that on a gravel road is pretty tough.
Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to Andre, the areas that were identified on Range Road 121, are those essentially the tops of those hills where it gets washboardy?
Through Chair to Councillor Dean, yes.
Okay.
And that's usually where we're getting washboard on roads is acceleration, deceleration, getting near the top of some of the steeper hills like on 121, Cartwright Hill, on Lenira Road, probably one or two other ones, but from about halfway to the top of the steeper hills, we get washboard.
And so there's enough clay in that area to enable the product to work properly?
We believe so.
Yeah. Okay. And Cartwright Hill, there's not enough clay?
Through the Chair to Councillor Dean, Cartwright Hill, no.
So is there a remedy for that then?
Through the chair, at this point, we're looking for other products that we may be able to use there. Cartwright Hill's been an issue for forever.
Right. Just gonna jump in here quick. I do have one quick question in regards to the clay base. How do we determine, I guess, the makeup, if there's gonna be enough clay for it to actually work or not? Like, do we have testing or something, go out there and take a sample to see what's in the road? So some of these I don't have a good idea what's actually under the surface. I'm just as far as how we will determine, I guess, appropriate amount of clay base.
Your Worship, the supplier will actually take a sample and do an analysis on it, and then they will give us a feedback. There are some simple tests you can do, taking a sample, putting it in a jar of water, mixing it, and watching the settlement. You can make somewhat of a determination what's in there, but the supplier will take a sample and let us know.
Right. Councillor Burrows?
Through the chair to rest of council. So since we have this on the agenda as an item on the test products, I know that we've had this conversation before about signage and trying to communicate the good news that we do on the programs that we forward. For information, I'd like to motion for we bring to the governance and authorities a policy on testing new products and signage and communication with the public, because I really think that's the end of my motion. And then just speaking to the motion, that I think that there's a really good opportunity here to actually get some good feedback. I mean, we've even talked about having a smart tag on the corner of the sign. You can walk up and click it, and it'll take you to a page where you can give feedback that it's good, but it washboards. It does this, but it doesn't do that. It doesn't last long enough. The shoulders are soft, something along these lines. If you ask for the feedback, you'll get it. I don't think we've been asking for it. I don't think we've been advertising it very well. So that's why I'd like to make that motion.
Right. Councillor Preston, speaking to the motion.
Through the chair to administration and council. These products are very expensive to buy and install. So I really think doing the signage, and not only signage, like put it on our webpage what we're doing, so these the residents can see that we're actually trying to do something and basically know where their tax dollars are going, because this is very expensive to do. GeoWeb is $10,000 for 100 meters. Like, that's a lot of money. So I'm good with that motion.
I just want to clarify, notice a motion or a motion, Council Rose?
Well, it's a motion to bring it to GMP, yeah.
Councilor Kuchen, there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, I just, to speak to the motion, I really agree with that because this testing has been done over here on this side. And the residents on our side of the municipality absolutely do not have that information or know that we are actually doing some things. And I can guarantee you there's some roads over there that'll possibly benefit from that. So it would be really important that I think that we do the signage and we come up with an idea for how we're going to communicate that we're trying different ways to improve our infrastructure.
With that, we got a motion on the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? It's passed. Let's see. Not sure how long this conversation is going to go on the next one. We do have a delegation at 10, but I guess we probably start the cold mix evaluation. Yeah, Andre again.
Your Worship, members of council, a request is made by council for further information on coal mix roads. So in 2020, given the financial situation of the county, administration had an RFD to council identifying that costs of maintenance, especially the filling of potholes on potholes, areas that were really breaking up on coal mix roads. Given the cost of rehabilitation at the time, in the finances, council made a motion to pulverize coal mix roads rather than spending the funds to rehabilitate the roads. In 2022, last fall, administration prepared an assessment on the coal mix roads. There was a public consultation, identified the conditions that were going to propose for pulverizing in 2023. And there was feedback from the public at that time. Since 2020, each year we do an assessment of our coal mix roads in the spring. We've identified areas for this spring that we are proposing to pulverize, which is attached to the RFD. On that map, it also identifies the condition of all our coal mix roads. Question regarding the cost savings per kilometer amount to turn coal mix back to gravel. The cost to rehabilitate or create a coal mix road is identified in the RFD at $85,000. Cost of pulverizing kilometers between 25-30. The same $55,000 a kilometer. And when we say we're pulverizing a coal mix road back to gravel, it's not really back to gravel. It is a pulverized oil product that when the summer comes around and the heat and the traffic, it does bind it together somewhat, but it is not the smooth coal mix road that was there before. To rehabilitate a coal mix road requires aggregate, oil, material, equipment. The cost of oil at this point in time is 75 cents a liter. The expected life cycle of a coal mix road, the standard is 5 years. However, a lot of our roads get in around 8 to 10 years of use. We do have some of the older roads in the Ford area that are getting probably 15, 18 years old. At some point, the county changed the oil that was being used to allow the breaking up of the coal mix roads and to be able to work it a little bit. The old type oil solidifies fairly hard and you can't rehabilitate it. However, they are showing the test of time and those older roads are still holding up. And I have to apologize, I didn't have time to review my RFD before coming to dealing with some water issues. But I also want to identify that the pulverizer that the county has is 60 years old. It's becoming increasingly difficult to utilize that piece of equipment. It does not really meet today's safety standards and should be replaced. The new pulverizers are extremely expensive. A unit roughly 20 years old, about $250,000. Any questions?
Councillor Wilhelm.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Do you need, through the chair to administration, do you need the pulverizer to do rehabilitation on the roads, or is that only for pulverizing the road to take it back to the kind of?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, we would need the pulverizer to do either one.
Okay. The next question, I guess, is if we look on the map here, it essentially you're looking at doing a few small sections of what are overall labeled either good condition roads or fair condition roads. Do we know like the total length of those small sections? Is it about 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers worth of road that you're looking to pulverize?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, most of these are ballpark 100 meters.
Okay. So you're looking at probably like 1 to 2 kilometers of pulverization you'd want to do.
Roughly 1 to 1.2 kilometers.
Okay. And then when you pulverize a section of road that's in the midst of a fair, good, or excellent condition, does that not lead to deterioration of the road as you transition from cold mix to gravel back to cold mix again? Would the intersecting sections of those roads not start to deteriorate faster?
Through the chair, Councillor Wilhelm, it all depends what we do when we pulverize it. If we bring in asphalt millings, which we've been doing, which we did last year on a lot of them, it does give it additional strength in that area we pulverized. The ends to potholes where the transition is, but it doesn't really lead to more deterioration on the existing coal mix.
Okay. And I guess my last, just I was trying to run some rough numbers here based off of the information that we'd been given in the RFP. And if we were, if we have 1.2, 1.5, let's call it 2 kilometers, it's just a nice round number of roads to rehabilitate. By the numbers, we're looking at somewhere between 170 to 200K worth of funding to do that. And then to pulverize those same sections, you're looking between 60 to 80K to do that. So the 120K difference to either just rehabilitate the road altogether or create cold mix sections amongst a bunch of fair to good condition roads. Does that seem fair?
Through the chair, relatively ballpark numbers, yes. When we're dealing with small areas, different locations, it's a little more because you got to move everything versus doing a 1 kilometer in one area.
Okay.
Councilor Prestidge.
Through the chair to Andre, if we pulverize these roads and keep the dust down, if we get dust control on yearly, I wonder if that would suffice a lot of the residents' problems, because the dust control actually tightens the road up too.
Through the church to Councilor Prestige, I don't think there's a lot of dust coming off these pulverized roads. If it's a road that we've just pulverized, and when we lay it down, we add water to help bind the particles together, compact it, we're not going to get a lot of dust coming off them. If it's something we've pulverized before and we pulverize it again, then we tend to get more dust off them. If council is looking at, let's say, a hybrid where we pulverize and do something to ensure the dust stays down, one option is to do the pulverization, add a small percentage of oil. That will help bind things together, give a little better driving surface, and definitely keep the dust down.
Thanks. Through the chair to Andre. So just to be clear, these small sections that are sprinkled throughout those subdivisions, you do have an ability to bring them back to that small section, to bring that back to a cold mix surface. You can go in with machinery and rehabilitate that and bring it back to cold mix.
Through the chair to Councilor Dean, we have that ability, but there's a cost if the desire is to rehabilitate it to cold mix, then oil's got to be added,
Right.
and probably some aggregate.
Okay, so, I mean, the numbers that Councillor Wilhelm was throwing around, those are estimates, but we don't actually have a cost of what it would cost to really rehabilitate that total section, the aggregate total of all those small sections. We don't know what that would cost if we wanted to bring it back to cold mix versus any of the other options.
Through the chair, Councilor Dean, the number of 85,000 a kilometer is a fairly close number. There'd be additional costs because you're moving to all these different locations. So.
Okay, so if we said $100,000, and I mean, I'm kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, that's a rough estimate, but there's also a cost to just bring it back to a pulverized state as well.
To bring it back to which?
To pulverize it,
Yes.
yeah. And so the cost savings is, I mean, there's a cost savings, but it's not $100,000 per kilometer.
Correct.
Councilor Wilhelm and then Councilor Coogan.
So I'll direct this at council. With regards to this, the plan for pulverization, I wonder what council's thoughts are, considering our financial position as it moves forward into this year, the tax increases that have happened for our residents and ratepayers, and what that looked like for this year. Does anybody have any interest in potential, like, this is the one service level that we have that is most visible to our residents. And when we've been increasing taxes to them the last several years and decreasing their service levels, I personally would like to see this be one where we either stop or potentially or flatline the service level, decrease or increase it slightly for this year. I'm just wondering if council's set on that.
Mr. Chair?
Councilor Rose?
So, through the chair, to council, back in 2019, when we were sitting here and we had a discussion about buying a grader and found out that there wasn't any money in the bank to buy a grader, we were in full panic mode to try and cut costs, save money. We didn't do specific evaluations like this on the cost savings. We just knew that we were gonna save, like, honestly, if we could save a tank of gas and a few people's time to do something else, because we were shrinking as an organization as well. We were in a very different time. But based on the numbers that I'm seeing here, I would support Councillor Wilhelm's assertion that this, I don't think it's worth going backwards on this at this point in time, based on the numbers that I'm seeing and based on the taxation levels that we're seeing now as well. So, again, it was a different time, so I support the decision that was made by council at the time, but that's why we reevaluated, so.
Right, just given we do have a delegation who's been waiting here for a couple of minutes online, if we could, would we postpone this conversation until after the delegation come back to it, or table it? I don't think we're completely done with this, so. Councillor Wilhelm?
I'll motion to table the discussion till after delegation.
All right, all in favor?
So, Mr. Chair, point of order. I
Okay.
don't think we have a table. I think we only have a postpone.
Oh, okay. Friendly amendment, I'll motion to postpone till after the delegation.
Just through the CEO, just for verbiage, would it be table or postpone? Just make sure we get this right.
It is postponed, right?
Yep, that's fine.
Either or.
Yeah,
Either or.
Either or.
I'll motion to postpone that.
With that, call the question. Postpone until after the delegation. Favor? Okay, we'll come back to this one. Mr. Frank, sorry, I was waiting to see the delegation come in here. I didn't realize he was online waiting for us.
Good morning again, Reuben Council. I'm so happy to in front of you our social needs final report and summary of findings. Online we have HelpSeekers, we have Jesse Donaldson, and Camilo Escamilla. Forgive me for saying it wrong, Camilo. They are going to be going over their presentation, which was in your package, and also was in there, the summary of findings was the bigger ones. We're just gonna be going over the highlights. So I introduce you to HelpSeekers, and Jesse, this is council.
Hi, folks. Thanks for having us today.
Morning, hopefully you can hear us well.
I can hear you well. Can you hear me well?
Yep, I guess we'll just start here, go through the room, do a quick introduction from council, and we'll get into your presentation for us. You start there, Mr. Frank?
Oh, your worship member, Gordon Frank, CAO for the county.
Lisa Brown, Executive Assistant.
Devin Williams, Counselor Division 7 for Assiniboine Timu.
Bruce Prestage, Counselor, Division 5, Blue Ridge.
John Burrows, Councillor Division 2, Whitecourt West.
Dave Cush, Reeve, and Sommel.
Peter Kilkin, Counselor for Freedom River, and Goose Lake, Division 6.
Chairman Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
In Whitecourt Central, Division 3.
Andre Bichon, Director of Infrastructure.
Victoria Chen, Director of Corporate Services.
Heather Anderson, Community Services Coordinator. Hi, Jesse. Hi, Camilo.
Joan Slutwig, Manager of Planning and Community Services.
Right.
And I can hear myself okay. Is that affecting you on your side as well?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Camilla, can you talk and see if we can hear you?
Hi everyone, can you hear me well?
Yeah, you're coming through very clear.
It's just
Yep.
oh dear. Okay. Let's see what happens. If it becomes intolerable, please let me know. Share my screen here. Okay, perfect. And is your preference that we run through the whole presentation and take questions after?
Council, I think we just go through the presentation. If there's anything the council needs at that point, we'll see. It's sometimes easier to get questions out. Trying to remember with the, but we'll
Okay.
run as long as
Well,
we can.
Pretty informal group here on our side, so please interrupt me if you want to stop. So welcome, I'm Jessie Donaldson. I'm EVP of Strategic Services here at HelpSeeker and was supporting this project in its final days. And so pleasure to work with Heather and thank you. Generally at HelpSeeker, we support municipalities of all sizes. They get smaller and smaller in our portfolio to use data to inform social infrastructure planning. So we generally work directly with municipalities, particularly in this post-COVID world where we've seen municipal mandate for social issues organically grow, essentially, because we know other orders of government aren't always attending to the needs of particularly smaller communities. And so generally what we do is social needs assessments and other kind of strategic planning to support community well-being and social infrastructure planning. I'll start a little bit about social needs assessments. So what they do is they help provide, in theory, the same rigor to social infrastructure planning as, say, land use impact assessments do to physical infrastructure. And so while social needs assessments, over the course of drafting them, they inevitably cover issues that go beyond the mandate of a municipal government. Again, we know in post-COVID world, the municipal or the county government is more important than ever to define, advocate, and plan for the local needs, because no other level of government will do it effectively. And so we really think social needs assessments are that kind of tool, that raison d'etre, so that municipal governments, county governments can make more informed decisions about infrastructure at large. In this social needs assessment we used a mix of publicly available data as well as meaningful conversations with county residents to shape the findings. So one-on-one interviews and focus groups to really contextualize some of the publicly available data that we were seeing. So what is social infrastructure? We use this term here fairly broadly, and all communities, truly, regardless of their size, have and need a social infrastructure. In a smaller community, though, social infrastructure is just as much the informal support networks that hold together a community. So neighbors coming together to help each other, or if there's a fire in the community, everyone rallying around, as is the recreation programs that support youth well-being. So when we say social infrastructure, we really mean the full suite of services or supports that help a community kind of prosper in regards to well-being. But as we've seen, as community grows, but again, and I'll keep referencing this, especially since COVID, we're also seeing the need for more complex support. So shelters, mental health counseling, food banks, substance use in nearly every community. The tricky part of it is perpetually balancing what you have today against community needs that are shifting more rapidly than I think we even understand. And what happens is, how do you look for signals that you might have a misalignment between your community need and what you have available? Because when the signals become obvious, such as you're receiving concerns from your constituents or you're seeing even one or two people experiencing homelessness, it generally means you were too late to the table. So social needs planning is just kind of monitoring community needs in a way that's practical, and then with limited resources, prioritize what's going to happen. And forgive me for this language, but the best for our investment as community goes. So what is it like in a rural context? And you can laugh me out of the room because it's silly, but when I first began this job, it was 3 years ago, it was common verbiage that communities around, communities experience a tipping point. At a population of 100,000 communities, that's when homelessness, mental health, and substance use, intimate partner violence started to accelerate. Today, and I was thinking about it as I was preparing this presentation, that's laughable. It truly is. We now know that all communities are struggling in some sense with complex issues, both seen and unseen. We know rates of hidden homelessness in rural areas skyrocketing. We know affordability issues, particularly in rural issues, and growing inequity, income inequity is prevalent every province, every community. And so it's really shifted, I think, the new narrative on who is social infrastructure planning for, but what does it mean for some of those smaller communities? An example I'll give you is the negative outcomes we're seeing in regards to post-COVID on youth and child well-being. We work closely with a number of schools and communities of all different sizes, are completely agnostic of town size, location, or even the supports available. Increasing complexity and use of substance use, which we did find evidence of when we did your social needs assessment, and again, things like poverty, inequality. The exciting piece, though, and not to start this on a negative note, is the prospect for you as a county to create a kind of a strategic roadmap that addresses both the present and future needs, and think forward of what kind of social infrastructure do we need today, but in 5 and in 10 years. And what kind of supportive infrastructure, what kind of services, community building initiatives, everything that's already full of in your portfolio as far as recreation, et cetera, goes, how can those be tailored to the kind of specific mix of factors happening on the ground now? I'd say it's not a question mark if you do for social infrastructure, really how, and how do you one that's true to kind of community needs. All right, some data, a whole bunch of data on one slide. Give you a few thoughts. The document that you have has a whole bunch more and goes through in detail what some of the implications are. But we'll just start with some of the kind of easier ones to pick out. So here we see a population decline of 3.9%. In young adults, we see that's more pronounced with a 22% increase. We also see, and this won't be news to you, a 32% increase in people aged 65 years and older. So that alone, those two stats, although very known to people in these rooms, this is going to dictate a very specific social infrastructure need, which I'll talk about in my next slide. But let's look at income as well. So we found a third of individuals are characterized as low income, keeping in mind that the threshold for low income is extraordinarily low. So even people who aren't technically in that low income category may likely experience issues with affordability, increased stress, family conflict due to economic strain. We also have 11% poverty rate among children ages 6 to 17. While that is not a huge amount, the impact of children living in poverty that have from a multi-generational standpoint in your community can be significant. So that there gives us a specific set of kind of infrastructure, social infrastructure considerations you might want to make. I'll just point your eyes to the bottom, though, on the housing one. And the housing one is one of the most important things we use to assess community needs, because these figures are really about way more than housing. So you have about 18% spending more than 30% on shelter costs, and almost 2.5% spending more than 50% more. Given the fundamental role of housing, these indicators are really helpful to signal unseen community distress. So there are a bunch of studies on the correlations between core housing need, higher community rates of hidden homelessness, family conflict, substance use, mental health challenges, and these are measured across every community. So these are really good benchmarks for you to say, okay, we have around 20% of our population that may be experiencing extreme stress without necessary supports or protective factors, and that may be really hard to see. So what does that mean for future needs? And we'll go through kind of the next few slides. So for aging demographics, one future need is age-friendly strategies that look at both the social and physical infrastructure and how as your population ages, particularly if your younger population continues to decline, how might that older population best sustain an overall kind of well-being? Increasing homelessness among older adults is a trend we're seeing again across the country in almost every community, and strategies that support older adults to stay in their home have proven most effective as far as cost-effective and positive for the community. But that's something that needs to start happening earlier than when you see older people actually having to leave their homes or experiencing homelessness. It's not a secret that we're in an affordability crisis. So with 1/3 of your population experiencing low income, The lasting impacts on individuals and families, and then therefore the community as generations go on, can be significant. Not only in regards to basic needs, though, I want to emphasize it's not just, okay, well, they can't afford food on the table, which is significant and a big deal. But the affordability crisis is also triggering a huge mental health crisis. It's interfering with things related to child development, family stability, correlations between increased poverty and affordability, and substance use, as well as job loss. So again, it's one of those indicators that suggest there may be more complex issues burbling under the surface for your community. We did hear a fair amount about kind of feelings of isolation, and I don't want to quite say hopelessness, but feelings of isolation within the community. And while that's not unique to you, given the size of your community, as well as the importance of informal connections within your social infrastructure, strong community ties are an essential part of what's going to make your community well and functioning. So when that begins to get disrupted, again, as we've seen sort of post-COVID, it can lead to community-wide mental health impacts. It can lead to substance use. It can also lead to, so when group ties are low to your existing community, people seek alternate forms of belonging. So for teens, that may be problematic social media use or using substances among friends. And so again, looking at that kind of feeling of isolation and how that's impacting community at large and those more complex issues becomes all the more pressing. We also see, related to the last slide, we see isolation linked to increases in youth crime. There's a huge push across the country right now looking at youth gang activity, but not in the way we know it and talk about it, but just the affiliation of youth of doing problematic behavior and social disorder. So when there's a lack of positive and meaningful activities in critical after-hour schools, high feelings of isolation, barriers to get to the supports that might exist, we do see increases in crime. And of course, we did see an increase in crime within your social needs assessment, specifically youth. Evidence of a burgeoning mental health crisis in the county. And again, you're not unique in that. However, the impacts it'll have on a small community for you may be significant, and building a strong, robust mental health infrastructure takes time, and it takes consideration, and it takes thoughtful prioritization. And in our interviews as well, we did see that concept of kind of mental health strain coming through in a fairly pervasive way. Ensuring the mental health needs of a rural community, though, requires political savvy, and it requires creativity. And so I'm not sitting in front of you today saying, okay, you need a full, robust mental health continuum. That's not practical, but it's also maybe not necessary. So there are things that can happen, virtual resources, mobile resources from neighboring communities, and those can be a helpful stopgap. But based on what we did see, that was one of the more obvious signals, if you were, that there may be a growing misalignment between community needs and what exists today. Okay, so another approach you can take, and you'll see within the report, is you can take a population-based approach to infrastructure planning. So you can say, we can't do everything for everyone, but we can look at priority populations based on where we're at and look at the continuum supports that are available for them. So let's say for seniors, transportation, assistance with digital access to services or phone programs so they can stay connected, Meals on Wheels, income supports, as well as age-friendly infrastructure. When we look to youth, we can see positive after-school activities, school-based mental health programming, and crime prevention. However, if you're starting from a place of very little formal social infrastructure, I recognize how daunting and frankly impractical this may be. So the question becomes, how do you decide what to prioritize and when, particularly with limited resources? One approach is to think of your community members on a continuum of well-being. So generally, you'll expect your well-being to be distributed across the community like this. So imagine that 70% of the population has high well-being and low needs, might have one or two needs, but are able to, within their family systems, within the community systems, manage those needs effectively. 25% of the population, moderate well-being, so moderate needs. So you're going to see a little bit more complexity of needs, may need actual community supports, may start to need mental health counseling, for example. And then this 5%, that's your low well-being, high needs. Those are families or individuals facing really complex issues. Again, intersections of mental health and substance use, or simply affordability. We saw that 2% that are paying more than 50% of their income on rent, which again indicates usually a high need situation. So one thing you can do, and the challenge is how much of your efforts, of your social infrastructure decision should be upstream, that is supporting this 70% and more of this 25% to avoid them experiencing high needs. Or you might say as a community, it's really important for us to mitigate the kind of community trauma and impact that these high needs, low well-being individuals and families are experiencing. So we're going to prioritize the types of infrastructure that really support that there. There's no right answer, and it will change. It should change. It should change frequently throughout your community. But the most important thing is being intentional as you have the opportunity to prioritize some of these initiatives. I'll give you another example, sort of definitely in your wheelhouse, is recreation programs for youth. I would consider that an investment in the high well-being, low needs group. So that is totally about social infrastructure. It's about community, but it really is for more of that kind of low needs group. The good thing is, as well, there are many good things, but there are also options as a smaller rural community to start to incrementally move towards a quote unquote complete social infrastructure, whatever that means, that require investment but are practical. And you've already done some of these, and kudos to your team and Heather for being creative in the setting. So enhancing telecommunications for remote service delivery. There's so many great low cost, even free resources available online now, but that takes some effort and some communication with the public to say, this is what's available to you, this is how you use it. More flexible service delivery methods, private-public partnerships to deliver service, so tapping into corporate social responsibility programs. Mobile service units, so given your demand, it doesn't make sense that you may have a full-time youth mental health caseworker, perhaps. So how can you share resources with neighboring communities for mobile services? Leaning into communities, hub models, so one-stop shops where individuals can go and kind of get multiple things that they need. And again, these can be done on an interim basis, a part-time or a full-time over time. And then also supporting connectivity and sustainable transportation for youth, for seniors, to access some of that programming that you may not be able to justify within the community now, but certainly there's a handful of people that would benefit. Overall, this is my last slide, and then I look forward to discussion. This really isn't about social infrastructure, and I think if you see throughout the needs assessment, it's really about looking at community well-being and prosperity as a whole, and then the interconnectedness between economic growth, resilience planning, social infrastructure, and physical infrastructure, and perpetually asking how are these things intertwining to impact these social indicators, which are in fact community health indicators. So I think within the needs assessment we prepared, we've laid out a number of strategies that could address sort of your unique context at this point. I believe they're practical, they're appropriate, they're also evidence-based, and come from experiences of other communities of a similar size to you. And so I hope in your review and as in your investigation kind of moving forward that they resonate and you're able to incorporate them as is appropriate in sort of your future for the county. Let's stop here.
Any comments or questions from Councilor Burrows?
Sorry, I just have one quick question on the numbers for the presentation. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. On your page 19 of the presentation, which in our package is page 35 of 68. Median after-tax income 2016 to 2021, Woodlands County 97,000 to 89,000. So you're saying in 2016, our median income was 97, and in 2021, it's 89,000 in actual cash. Like I just want to see that that's not an inflationary number. And
Yeah. Phil, could you take a look at that, please? I think it's in the highlights. Heather, is that in the highlights or the condensed
I think that's in the summary of findings.
summary of findings?
I'm just
We will-
going by the
no.
electronic copy, so I
No, that's
didn't know how
okay.
to reference it other than that.
Does page 19 look like this?
It
Councillor
looks
Brewer?
like page 19, yes.
Okay, I'm just looking. Apologies for the delay here.
If I could continue on while they're looking to verify that. I just forget, well, not giggles, but just for a frame of reference, I wanted to put out a little, I guess, further math.
Sure.
When we're talking with the provincial government around MSI funding and some of these things, we talk about the fact that we've lost since 2016. We've actually lost 21% of our dollar because of inflation to date. And I went on the Bank of Canada's website just for to make sure that I'm not spouting something that's incorrect. So from 2016 to 2021, inflation was 9.35% over a 5-year period. So a $100 basket of goods was $109.35. From 2021 to 2023, only 2 years, it's an 11.5% increase in inflation. So now that $100 basket is $111, and it's up over the whole years. 21.9%. So let's say 22% inflation. So your $100 basket of goods is now $122 in 2023 from 2016. So if you're seeing a decrease in actual cash plus a devaluation of the dollar in these huge inflationary pressures that we're seeing over the next little while, this is kind of the making of a real disaster in front of us.
Yeah. Yes. No, I appreciate that. It's the compounding impact of not just the dollars, but then inflation. I think we could even look at revising that to include that perspective. Camilla, were you able to confirm the number? Did you find the 19?
Yeah, so the numbers are 97,000 in 2016 and 89,000 in 2021. Yeah.
So that is not inclusive of inflation, anything, just a
No.
decrease. Yeah.
Exactly.
To your point, which makes that all more problematic or concerning.
Councillor Wilhelm.
Just for a clarification, I'm looking at the population changes data, and you've got a largest increase in the age range of 65 plus. Is that new members into our community, or is that people aging into a higher age bracket? Like, was there any designation made between that?
Camilla, did you want to speak to that? You're on mute. Other way. Camilla? You muted.
Sorry, can you hear me?
There we go.
Sorry. I was saying, that one is it's very hard to know. We just know that the population is aging, and it could be mainly because of the population that you had before. It's just aging. We don't know if that is actually because of new people, moving into the community. It could be, but we just don't know with the data that is available right now if that new population is actually, age 65 plus or not. We just know, and we know what census provides us with is, the population right now is aging in the community, but we just can't, get more details on that information.
What we do have, though, we can look at data, is we can look at numbers. So I and we'll look at the data, you have a fairly low percentage of people moving into the community. And so we can make some inferences. We can't cross-tabulate it, but we can make some inferences. If I were a betting woman, I would say it's your resident population aging into that category.
Councillor Wilhelm.
And just for more information for council, Lac-Saint-Anne Foundation, one of the boards that I sit on, also did a needs assessment on just housing for low income and senior. And they're finding very obviously same information that happened in here, just on a broader region, and that our region is underserviced for housing for both, like massively underserviced for housing for both low income and seniors. So I can share that with you when we adopt it as a board, but it verifies this and also extrapolates it a little bit more in a larger region in our area.
Councillor Burrows.
Just one other question, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if they had a chance to actually look through our LICO and seniors benefit program, and if you think we're headed in the right direction, or you have any feedback on that specific policy and how it went.
No.
That's the one we talked about for the seniors for traveling for medical appointments and the tax rebate.
I personally would be happy to look at it and make specific recommendations on that. I would be happy to take a look.
Anything else in council? Not seeing anything else here. Do you guys have anything else you want to present or bring up, or?
Us? Oh, no, just a warm thank you for letting us present and welcoming us into your community over these past several months. And we just extend our ongoing support as you work through this information and decide what it means for you.
With that, I guess I'll thank you for your time and all your work on this, and Heather administration, you guys' work in this year too. Can I get a Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts HelpSeekers presentation and the needs assessment final report as information.
Any discussion on the motion? With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. And again, thank you guys very much for your time. I see your hand up there. Do you just... All right. So that brings us here. Yes, council, do we want to continue the cold mix evaluation? You guys want to take a quick break here? We'll take we'll say 10:45. Sure, this 7 minutes here. All right, figure 8 will reconvene at 10:45. Okay, we're back, and I guess we're gonna get back to our discussion on the cold mix evaluation there. Councillor Prestich.
Yes. Through the chair to administration. I agree with Councillor Wilhelm of continuing to do the cold mix, but for this year, I don't believe it's in the budget to spend that kind of money. Be in favor of patching those sections this year and putting it in the budget next year, because we've done too much unbudgeted expenses, and that should stop. If we can't figure out our budget better than that, then we shouldn't do it.
I do have a question, I guess, on that to administration. Instead of, again, I do agree, you know, if our taxes are coming up and we're getting a little bit where we are, maybe we can start looking at what we can do to keep service levels where they are instead of kind of going on some of this. Cost-wise, we'll say for a patch this year till we get to our next budget season versus pulverizing, is that, we'll say a large expense to patch those to at least maintain it for another season, or I guess versus pulverizing those spots I was kind of where we're.
To the chair, when you say patch, what do you mean?
I guess to maintain the cold mix instead of having to pulverize and then turn it back after.
Through the chair to council, the areas we've identified are breaking up pretty bad. To be able to, it's not a matter of patching potholes. Well, it could be a matter of patching potholes as they develop. The intention was to pulverize them so that those areas that are bad, we wouldn't have to keep going there to patch. So if council chooses to patch potholes, it's doable.
Councilor Willow.
I'm gonna make a motion that administration brings forward an RFP on an estimate and possible budget solutions for the funding of rehabilitation of the indicated problem road sections for 2023.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Councillor Dean?
Just to, through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, just to clarify, essentially what you're asking is what's it gonna cost to bring those back to a cold mix surface? Okay. And do you want, as a friendly amendment, do you want a cost comparison as to pulverizing?
Sure. I'll accept that.
Okay.
Just for my clarification, that's for the 2024 budget
No, that would be for this year.
for this year. Andre?
Through chair to council, the numbers we're gonna bring back are not gonna be a whole lot different than the numbers that are in here.
Councillor Wilhelm?
Just to follow up that question through the chair to administration. Well, these numbers in here were estimates based off of kilometers, like, you know, kilometer long or whatever. You now know exactly the sections that you want to do. Would you not be able to create essentially a complete estimate of what the cost would be?
We can, through the chair to, we can, but they won't be far off of these numbers.
Another discussion? Councillor Williams?
Kind of I don't know if maybe a question or a friendly amendment, but would there be a portion that we can maybe bring back of, if we can't, just to save time in case we can't afford it this year, what it would cost to maintain those roads for this year into next year's budget? Does that make sense to anybody? Kind of like what Councilor Prestich was saying.
Councillor Gross?
Sorry, I think I maybe can summarize, because this is what I was thinking as well. I think the listing on the RFD was, or the information package was $1,500 for pothole repair, or patching. And so the friendly amendment, or the other portion to bring back would be make the road serviceable, what would it take to make it serviceable for one more year to carry us to the 2024 budget? Rather than rehabilitating the entire road, make it serviceable for one more year. Would that be?
Yeah, compare the two. Like, what's it gonna cost to rehabilitate these roads? What's it cost to make them manageable for the year until we get to 2024? And then we can maybe make a decision, because there's obviously some money in the budget to pulverize, so maybe you can do this many kilometers this year, patch the rest, get us through, because it's 25 or 35,000 a kilometer to pulverize, so there's some money there, just maybe not enough to do everything, so.
Councillor Will.
I'm gonna rescind my motion just because I think there's a better motion that could be made. But with regards to that, through the chair to administration, I'm assuming you've got a potential list for 2024 of roads that you're also gonna want to either rehabilitate, pulverize, or do whatever with, maintain. I think that should be included if we're gonna do anything for the 2024 budget. So if we're looking at that as a solution, limping into the 2024 budget with these problem section roads and then making a solution for it for 2024, then I think we should include those sections that you're gonna have in 2024 in that for those budget considerations as well.
Mr. Frank?
Yeah, your worship, members of council, I just want to make sure that council is dealing with one item at the time. So my understanding is Councillor Wilhelm's motion is to provide a cost estimate to patch and maintain the existing surface, and with a comparison to pulverize, and then Councillor Williams added to whether we bring it up to cold mix standards.
The motion was rescinded.
Well, did he?
I rescinded my motion, yeah.
Oh, he withdrew it?
Because I think there was a better motion that could be made, so.
Okay, so you
currently we
withdrawn,
don't have a
okay, so
motion.
we're back at square one, okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, I apologize.
Why were we, yes, Councillor Dean?
So I'll take a stab at this, this motion that everybody's kind of going toward. So I'd move that we ask administration to bring back to our next council meeting a cost for cold mix rehabilitation on the identified areas, as well as a patch situation to get the roads serviceable through to next year. And then further to what Councillor Wilhelm had said, as well as an overall cost for the 2024 budget considerations that will take into account both the current year affected roads and the roads that likely are coming up in the next budget season. Does that make sense?
Administration, or do,
Yeah, your worship, members of council, I would split that into two motions. One is the first part, and then the 2024 stuff is for budget deliberations for administration to prepare a full costing of cold mix program. I think that essentially that's what you're trying to get at for 2024. And that's what I would do for budget considerations.
Councillor Dean, you okay with that? We can add into two motions?
I am, yeah. So we want to deal with just the first motion. Want me to restate it?
If you could, we'll do the first motion and then we'll move on to the second one.
Okay, so I move that we direct administration to bring back a cost comparison between the cold mix rehabilitation on the identified areas for 2023 versus a remediation program that will get those areas through to next year.
All right, does that want to work for administration? Okay. Discussion from council on that motion?
Just
Councilor Rose?
through the chair, I just have one question to Councillor Dean. Did you want the rehab versus the patch versus the return to gravel cost comparison, or you just want the patch versus the,
Cold mix rehabilitation.
okay. Just checking.
Any other questions? With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Councilor Dean, second one.
Okay, so I'd move that administration bring back cost analysis of the 2024 roads in question for cold mix rehabilitation.
Right. A motion on the floor. Again, any discussion from the council? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? And that one is carried. Okay, moving on. 8.4. That is Mr. Frank.
Your worship, members of council, we're asking council to set up several dates in regards to the governance and priority meeting that was recently canceled, as well as the CAO's performance reviews, which would be a closed session to conclude that, and to council to go on road tours. And typically, road tours are 2 days, one on the west, one on the east.
Well, through to council, as we'll check here, start with the first one for the rescheduling of the G&P. Councilor Prestich.
Through the chair, I'm away all next week on holidays.
Councilor Wilhelm.
I'm also away all next week till after Canada Day.
Just want to check with administration. I believe that, do we have any scheduled GNP through July and August?
No, your worship.
Would it be agreeable to council instead of, because we don't have one in July, just move this in the rotation to where July would be? Which I think that would be. That'd be July 12th.
I won't be, I don't think I'll be, no, I won't be available on the 12th.
You mean just the 2 weeks after?
I know we're coming into the summer months, so I think if we can at least get a date down, we have the majority of council. There's gonna be a lot of holidays, I know everything to work around for the next couple of months, so just trying to see what will work for the majority here anyways.
So you want to show of hands who's available?
Yeah, or if we can get a couple possible days. Sorry, what?
The 26th, that'd be 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I'm good there.
Either are good for me.
Well, so we got the options anyways right now for the 12th and the 26th of July. I guess you have a show of hands, 12th, is it, or for who it works for? And the 26th. So either way, we're down one.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I might be able to come online for it, so,
For the 26th?
well, yeah.
Your worship, I'm just checking with admin. Those are your guys's. Are you both available?
That would be an evening meeting,
That would be an evening meeting.
either one for me.
Victoria?
I will be away on the 11th, so the 12th, unless the GMP is in the afternoon, that I should be okay.
6
p.m. Yes, so yes, I should be able to do it. So either day is fine.
Either day?
Yeah.
Right, so gentlemen, Councilor Wilhelm?
With regards to the dates, I'd like, I think the 12th would be better, because Council Bros, that's the day that you said you could be there for sure.
I think I can, yeah.
And one of the items on that is, I believe, one that you were very interested
Tax
in
policy,
discussing.
yes.
And I think it'd be important if you're at that one.
Like I said, I know coming into summer months is gonna be difficult getting everybody together here. Yes,
Just a reminder to council that in the event anyone is unable to make a meeting, feedback is still recommended and encouraged from councilors that can't attend to ensure that we can get everybody's feedback. And as it is a GMP meeting, no decisions are made. So that feedback at that stage is still very important. So any councilor that is unable to attend, we still encourage that feedback to come through.
I guess, for the first one there, motion, anybody wanna make a motion on a date? Councilor Goodman,
I'll make a motion that we have the GMP on July 12th.
at 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Alright, motion on the floor for rescheduling of the GMP for July 12th at 6 p.m. Any discussion on that? Call the question, that one, all in favor? Work down to the second one here, the CAO 360 review. I would like to try to get this done as quick as we can, and I ask if council is agreeable to putting it on our next council meeting.
Sure.
So that would be the 19th then?
That's correct.
That'd be, next council meeting would be the 19th.
Sure.
Councilor Dean?
Just a question to that. I don't know what the agenda looks like for that meeting on the 19th. This specific item could take a long time to discuss. It could be an hour-ish. Is that something you want to put into a council meeting? You feel confident that we'd work through it?
Corinne?
Just a reminder, on July 19th, following the council meeting, we have a limited time because that is our RMA member visit day. So we will, starting at 12:30, be having lunch with our RMA representatives and then carrying on with a couple-hour discussion there. So we're already looking at 2 meetings essentially that day. So just a consideration of
That's
the council.
good point. That might tie up in case something goes wrong. Any other recommendations from council? We gotta move it to our August meeting or host a special meeting.
Mr. Chair, I would just suggest that we don't do it during that July 19th one, where we're limited for time.
That's one if we wanna push it to the August council meeting then, or if we wanna host a special meeting.
What about the 26th? John, you said you thought you'd be able to plug in Teams?
On the 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be making a personal trip out to BC. My mom and dad are staying, so.
So maybe you don't want to have a meeting stuck in there then, yeah.
Well,
I'd rather hold it off in case something happens or.
Yeah.
Just through to administration, is August 16th our meeting date?
Yes, it is.
Would council be okay with just moving us to the August? It's 2 meetings out. Okay, can I get a motion for that? Councilor Williams?
I can make a motion that council schedule the CAO 360 performance review for the August 16th council meeting, 2023.
Okay, motion on the floor, any discussion? I'll call the question, all in favor? Okay, so that one is passed. And road tour. Do we have much on the list, just asking administration for the road tour currently, or problem areas that we're looking at? The last one we did was a 1 day, so I'm just.
Through the chair, we've gotten four items. 2 have been resolved. We're working on the other 2 that should be resolved fairly shortly. What I would recommend, or may recommend, is council may choose to have road tour in early September to coincide with budget, to identify items that are going to be proposed, and if councilors have any things they'd like to look at for the 2024 budget.
Makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. I know we don't have much on the list right now for scheduling for this. Any discussion, any thoughts from council? Councilor Wilhelm?
Just a question, through the chair to administration, how long does the road tour take? Is it an all-day thing?
Through the chair, in the past 2 days, 1 day on each side, or one really long day to hit everything.
The last one that we did here pre-COVID, I think it was, we were on the bus there, it was a full day.
Okay.
If we're looking at holding it, with administration's recommendation, September around the budget talks, do we need to pick a time for that currently, or should we wait till we get more in the fall and find out what administration may have found or come up over the summer?
My recommendation would be to book something now, given, 10 schedules.
Councilor Wilhelm?
Just for more clarification, I apologize. When you say 2 days, split it up, like, are we talking 2 8-hour days? Are we talking 2 4-hour days? I gotta work around work, right?
Through the chair, depending on what council wishes to look at and administration pointing out, it could be something like a 12-hour day or a couple 6/8-hour days.
Your worship, members of council, normally we leave here at 8:30 and we're not back here on the one day. I think it was 5:30 or 6, that one, on the one long day.
Councilor Burrows, you know?
Yeah, I just had a question through the chair. I guess that we've had quite a conversation around cold mix, and I actually didn't realize that there were 2 different or multiple different formulas available for cold mix. There was a comment made that the cold mix in Fort is a different formula, and is that formula still available? I guess what I'm getting at is going back to our ideas around trying different products and what works better where, and is there an opportunity here within our rehabilitation program to actually see if we've got something that might work better? Because I know the stuff that we ended up putting down Flats Road almost looked like hot mix. So.
Andre?
Through the chair, the product up at the Fort use a different type of oil, and the new and improved oil is what's being used now. We are trying to source the type of oil that was used roughly 15, 18, 20 years ago. So we are looking at that, trying to source some.
Councilor Coogan?
Through the chair to Andre, so would that be the stuff they used on the Prairie Valley?
That's correct.
Okay.
So back to what we're working with here, as far as for scheduling the road tour, the council want to try to do this all in one day, or we want to break this out over 2? I'm thinking with multiple work schedules, that we probably do one would probably be better.
Make 1 day.
Lots of coffee.
I think 1 day.
My schedule, obviously, weekdays is usually pretty free, so Councilor Williams or Wilhelm, what might work best for days for you guys?
I'm off the 13th to the 18th. I think we might have a council meeting on the 13th, but any of those days is pretty good. The first, obviously, is a long weekend, and then the second week, I guess.
September 18th, I can make work. I'll just take a day off work. So Monday, we should all be fresh and ready to start roads.
Yes, September 18th on a Monday. Does anybody else have?
I'm away that day. Can we do the Tuesday or Wednesday?
19th. Well, Councillor Williams is working.
I could get it off if it works for everybody else though. Sure.
Good for me.
19th.
Long day.
Councillor Wilhelm, can you make that work?
Again, yeah, I'll have to take.
Sun doesn't set till 10:30.
Messes up the work schedule, but I can make it work. I'll just put it in there right now.
Any, Councillor Copeland, 19th?
Yeah, good.
Councillor Dean? Okay, somebody make a motion for the road tour? Councillor Williams?
I can make a motion that council schedule a road tour for September 19th, 2023.
Motion on the floor, any discussion? With that, I'll call the question, all in favor? It is passed. We have a road tour for September 19th. Councillor Dean?
I just have a housekeeping question with respect to my calendar. Today's council meeting is not in my calendar, and neither is the one in July. So I'm not sure if that's happening to anybody else.
I'm sure we can,
I spoke to Lisa about this. Remember I said they're grayed out? So my assumption is they're a go, but I don't know for sure.
I'll double check on you.
Mine's working there.
Jeremy thinks he can fix it.
There we go.
Alright, moving on here. 9.1 correspondence and information items. Anybody see anything there want to discuss or? If not, can I get a motion? Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the correspondence and information items as circulated.
Motion on the floor, any discussion from council? If not, I'll call the question, all in favor? And that is passed. 10.1, council reports and questions. Start over here, Councillor Williams.
I had a couple of things. We had a strategic planning session last weekend. And then I had an Egg Society meeting. They covered quite a lot there. Lots of planning, 50th anniversary. They talked about some farm safety, maybe incorporating some of the school into that. Possibly approaching some egg dealers and get some kids talking about that. So I thought that was really good. Hoedown planning, there's a few people, well, most of that whole society puts a ton of work into it, but there's some that are like working overtime there, so good on them. They're doing a fantastic job. Swimming lessons are a go in Fort Assiniboine. The Egg Society lined that all up, so they're doing swim lessons in Swan Hills. They used to do that when I was a kid. They offered that, so they brought it back. So I thought that was really good. And then we had a governance priorities meeting, also attended, and that's all I had for the last couple of weeks. Didn't? No. Oh, we were going to have that. Sorry, we didn't do that one, but that's all I had. Sorry.
Is there any questions, Councillor Williams? Moving on, Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, since that last meeting, the only real significant meeting it had, which took up a lot of time, was our RETA working group. We're reassessing what we're doing. Just to report, our AGM is on the 28th here in this council chambers. So anybody who would like to attend that meeting would be welcome. I did attend a meeting, Teams meeting with the Bicentennial, with the Brigade Society. We still have a few little things to button up there. And other than that, that's been my week, so.
Quick question, your AGM, do you have a date and time for that yet?
It's on the 28th, and I believe it's here at 10 o'clock.
Any other questions for Councillor Coogan? Councillor Burrows.
The attended the seniors lunch out in Blue Ridge. It was really good to be able to sit down with our seniors and see the programs and stuff. It was a very positive response. It was nice. I spent almost 25 minutes on the repaving that they're doing. The repaving was looking really nice at the time. Got to study it very closely during the 25 minutes that I sat behind the truck. But yeah, that's actually about it. I had some RMA stuff that, yeah. Again, that conversation that we had around MSI and the new LGFF. That's so they say the analogy guy under side. Urban's got, we each got a stake. The Urban's got a porterhouse. We got a strip mall. Under the new LGFF, they threw a pound of ground chuck in between the two of us, and we're fighting over it. So, and that's not an exaggeration. That's it for me.
Any questions, Councilor Burrows? No, moving on, Councilor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Reeb. I think most people have covered the council activities over the last couple of weeks, so I'm not going to reiterate that. I guess I'm going to brag a little bit here. My wife and I celebrated the birth of our first grandchild yesterday, and so that's occupied a lot of head space and heart space over the last little bit. And the other thing that's top of mind, of course, is the flood conditions. So the region I live in, the water is higher than I've ever seen. I've lived there for a little over 30 years, and it's. I'm happy to hear that it's going to peak. I keep hearing that it has peaked. It hasn't peaked yet, according to the app, and it's high. It's very high, but my heart goes out to anybody that's affected by the flood.
Any questions, Councilor Dean? Councilor Prestige?
Last Wednesday, same as Councilor Burrows, attended the Blue Ridge the Golden Age Seniors lunch, and it was good. They had a performer from Marithorpe, I forget the young kid's name. He was at the volunteer appreciation meeting. He's a 14-year-old country singer. He's doing very well. Then we had a West End bus meeting last Thursday. We have some issues there. Last year they put in for a grant for a garage and to purchase an electric vehicle. They received the grant. It's an 80% grant. So we don't need a new vehicle. We just purchased a new one here a few years ago. So there's really no need to buy an electric vehicle. The electric vehicle, the range on them is not very good for public transportation in a rural area. But they still want to build a garage in Marithorpe with a charging station that would be available to the public. And that's part of the grant. It has to be a charging station, a slow charging station available to the public. In doing that, with the 20% that the three municipalities would have to contribute to, our share would be $30,000, and Lac Saint Anne is $60,000. And what's a little contentious is it would be benefiting Marithorpe. So we're trying to see whether the grant can be changed to just the garage, not the electric vehicle. So there's still some hurdles to cross there, so update when I know more. Last night we had our victim services meeting. Very frustrating. We don't know what the province is fully developing with this program. Because when they take over the program, we have to resolve Eagle Tower Victim Services, because it's a society. We don't know the timeline, we don't know how much we can keep, whether we want to keep the society to do other things. All we got from the Solicitor General's people was they may extend it for another 3 months. That's, the deadline is supposed to be the end of April next year. So they might extend it for another 3 months if they don't have everything together yet. So our hands are tied, we don't know what to do or what we can do. So it's very frustrating. And that's it.
Hey, any questions to Councillor Prestige? Alright, moving on, Councillor Wilhelm.
I didn't have any committee meetings, so I don't have anything to present on that. Just wanted to let everyone know, June 22nd to July 2nd, I'll be potentially out of the country. So if you're trying to get a hold of me, just leave a voicemail whenever I get service again. I will respond to anybody that's looking for me, either council, administration, or the residents. I'll bring it up now, but I think it should, administration should look to add it to the agenda for the next meeting. But Community Future still has a hole on their board of directors. They don't have any representation from Woodlands County. And I think that should be a discussion at council if anybody wants to do that. So we'd had Councillor Prestige step down, but no follow-up on who's gonna take over that role. And then I just wanted to give props to administration on the RFD for the gold mix. I'm sure that RFD took a lot of work. You guys, I asked a lot of questions and requested a lot of information for that discussion, and I appreciated the follow-up on it. So thank you for that. Other than that, I'm good.
See, Corinne, you had your hand up back there.
Through the chair to all of council regarding Community Futures Yellowhead East. Their board is aware of the impasse that Woodlands County is at with finding representation to their board. Given their terms of reference, if I back up, council had requested if there were other options for someone other than a councillor for Woodlands County to sit on that board. Administration did reach out to their board coordinator, who touched base with their chair again regarding the impasse at Woodlands County. They had said that they would follow up with Woodlands County. However, administration has not heard back on other options if there are. So again, we were kind of waiting for Community Futures to get back to us. If there is anyone that has had their schedule change, only meet every month. Thursdays, 6 p.m. they provide supper. So if anybody's schedule has changed. But again, we haven't heard back from Community Futures if they have other options on their terms of reference.
Councillor Wilhelm.
Just to follow up on that, unless their meeting schedule has changed, that's it's incorrect. It was monthly when I was on it, and it was like lunchtime meeting start.
It has changed.
Since, oh, okay.
I did have that confirmation back from Community Futures about what they're, I'm just trying to find it now, in case.
Well, Corinne's looking at anything else for Councillor Wilhelm?
Through to council, Community Futures regular board meetings are every third Thursday, and the meetings are typically 3 to 4 hours in length. There was another meeting that maybe it was because they had been canceled. I correct that, every third Thursday. She doesn't say monthly in this email, 3 to 4 hours in length. So once per month, as Councillor Wilhelm identified.
Okay. Anything else, Councillor Wilhelm?
Was there?
Just moving on. For myself, it's been, other than what everybody else has done here with council, I did have an Assiniboine Ag meeting, just kind of looking at where things were before closing out for the summer. Big props to, I guess, the staff and I guess it'd be the volunteers and stuff in that group there. They held their spring barbecue. It ended up a little bit later than they were anticipating, but good turnout. The function actually did very well. Everything from, I guess, that end of it to the Assiniboines and just everything that community keeps bringing together to help out the Ag Society there is always phenomenal. Had a Whitecourt Library Board meeting. We were, I guess, finalizing some of the updates to the operating policy. So we've been working on the last couple of meetings, is going through some of the, I guess, the terms of reference and stuff they have in there. Hasn't been updated in a while, so they haven't been super exciting meetings, but definitely policy is something that's got to get done. And had a YRL trustee meeting here this past Monday. One of the big things that they're trying to, I guess, figure out on their end is through COVID and with a bunch of the lack of programming that they had kind of put off and postponed, they've ended up developing a bit of a surplus in their reserves. That's typically higher than they usually end up seeing. They usually hold, we'll say, I can't remember, it might be around $1 million or something like that, but it's considerably higher than where they usually are. And again, part of that is just everybody's been paying into fees and everything that way, but they've been running less programs and whatever over the last couple of years and getting back to that. So what they're currently looking at is how to better spend the money and where they can put it out for you guys, or out back into programming or back into the libraries to have that money sit there. It doesn't look good when it comes time for them looking for grant funding and stuff from the province also. So that is something that's definitely on the radar that they're working on. With that, any questions for me? Moving on, can I get a motion from Councilor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the council reports and questions as information.
Motion on the table, call the question, all in favor? It's passed. Moving on, financial report.
What doesn't it?
Yeah, we don't have it.
We don't? Shouldn't be. Sorry, it was on my agenda there.
Yep.
CAO report 10.3.
Your worship, members of council, briefly in regards to the last couple of days, we've been spending our time working with the DEM on the flooding of both the rivers on the Athabasca and the McLeod. The majority of the impact is on the McLeod. However, we do have a couple properties on the Athabasca at Trestle Road intersection and Flats Road is, and then a little to the west down the way. And all parties have been contacted. We've taken the approach of alerts and then having our crews, including Andre and myself, to connect with the landowners on that. So we continue to monitor that. The McLeod River is supposed to have peaked or will peak by noon today. So again, Councillor Dean's information is correct. It hasn't peaked according to their website. And we have two major, one road, the Flats Road, that is impacting residents. And we have our CPOs up there presently during the situation. So we'll provide council with updates as we move along in the day. And that's it, Your Worship.
Any questions for the CAO? Councilor Burrows?
Just one question to admin or the CEO, I guess. I know we haven't issued necessarily an evacuation order specifically, but we do have some properties that are flood affected. So are we making sure that residents got out of those properties and that they're kind of accounted for? Because I know there's a few even down on Old Ferry Loop. So
Yeah, your worship, council, in regards to the individuals or residents that have been impacted, we've made contact with individuals that are home and aware of it. We monitored through the night. We did wake a few people up to indicate to them, and all have agreed, I shouldn't say agreed, have indicated that they would wait it out, so. Have we got to everybody? We believe so.
Anything else? With that, I'll ask for a motion from council.
I'll make a motion
That's
that
gross.
we accept the CAO report for information.
Okay, motion on the floor. Discussion, call the question, all in favor? It's moved. Down to 10.4, service tracker monthly report.
Your worship, members of council, it's there available for if council has any questions.
Council, anything stand out to anybody on here? Or? Start with Council Prestige.
In the Blue Ridge area, I see there's one on the mailboxes. The county really has nothing to do with that. But what some residents were asking if our municipality would send a letter of support to Canada Post to change the style of mailboxes. I don't know if we can do that or not, but this is what they were asking for. Because they are getting broken into quite often.
Through administration, is that something we can possibly look at and post on?
Yeah, your worship, members of council, you could do a notice of motion to have it brought to the next meeting so that council can endorse that letter. Yeah, and then we can do some initial review of it.
Right. Council Prestige, you want to make that?
Yeah, I'll make a notice of motion to bring to the next council meeting the concerns of mailboxes being broken into in Blue Ridge. See,
Getting on that motion, so call the question, all in favor? It's passed. Any Councilor Wilhelm?
I'll motion that council accepts the monthly service tracker report as information.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion on that? That, call the question, all in favor? And nothing in the committee of the whole.
Your worship, members of council, just further, I forgot to add about the flooding to, our next impact is the Fort Assiniboine area. We have preliminary made some contact with the regular group that normally gets flooding, but due to the fact that this is a higher flood watch, we are making preparations to where there may be overland flooding, and we're beefing up, and we've actually ordered some sandbags to be brought in to potentially be filled in that area. So we are in that process.
Councilor Wilhelm.
A motion to adjourn.
Discussion on a motion to adjourn, all in favor?